15 races, 5 continents, the 1996 World Championship begins here in Melbourne at the new Albert Park circuit. It's the first time the season has begun in Australia. And it's a sensational debut for rookie Jacques Villeneuve, on pole position for his first Grand Prix. His Williams teammate Damon Hill is alongside, and Eddie Irvine's Ferrari is third quickest. World champion Michael Schumacher in the other Ferrari, fourth on the outside of the second row. New starting procedure, 10 red lights, and when they go off, the race is on, with the two Williamses getting cleanly away, but it's Jacques Villeneuve who leads his first Grand Prix. Damon Hill is second, and then at the first corner, watch for Damon Hill making a small mistake, and as he goes wide, that's all that Eddie Irvine needs to go by, and Michael Schumacher squeezes past as well, into fourth place. Further back, watch out for the gold Jordan of Martin Brundle getting caught in the traffic and launched into an immense cartwheeling accident. Miraculously, as the marshals rush up, they find that he is unhurt, but inevitably the race must be stopped. The red flag comes out, and that gives the brave Martin Brundle a chance to get back to the pits and get into the spare Jordan to have another go at the restart. The second start is a mirror of the first, and it's the two Williamses that lead round the first lap, Irvine third, Schumacher fourth. And as we ride with Irvine, he lets Schumacher by into third place. At the front, the Williams pair set about their own race, but Eddie Irvine's fourth place is attacked by Jean Alesi, without success. In clouds of his own rubber smoke, he accelerates away, but he has to come into the pits, where they find the damage is too bad for him to continue. Jacques Villeneuve loses the lead, but has a clean, routine stop. The Williams team prepare to bring in Damon Hill, and at his stop, he's cleanly out and comes out in front of Villeneuve. Damon Hill has the lead, but Jacques Villeneuve is no respecter of his team leader. He's not happy not to be leading, and he attacks. The surprised Hill glances in his mirrors, but Villeneuve is there, goes alongside on the outside, and leads the race. Schumacher's having brake problems. He goes off onto the grass and later retires. But the battle at the front is tremendous stuff. Hill is putting pressure on Villeneuve. Villeneuve goes off, gets back onto the track and still has the lead, but he's damaged the underneath of his car. He has an oil leak, and with a pit signal telling Villeneuve to ease off, the oil-streaked Williams of Hill goes ahead. Damon Hill wins the first Grand Prix of 1996. Jacques Villeneuve follows him home in second place in his first ever Grand Prix, and Irvine gets on the podium in his first race for Ferrari. From Australia, the Formula One circus goes all the way to South America and Brazil, where Sunday's weather is dreadful. As the rain teams down, everybody has to move to wet weather tyres. Damon Hill is on pole position, a second clear of everyone else. Barrichello on his home ground is second. Martin Brundle makes a great start in the other Jordan, but as they go down into the first corner, it's Villeneuve up and challenging Damon Hill once more. But Hill is ready for him, and as they go through the right-hander that follows the first corner, Damon Hill eases away, Villeneuve is in second place, and Rubens Barrichello has the Jordan third, ahead of Jean Alesi. Damon Hill, using the clear track in front of him, builds up an enormous lead. But Jean Alesi, now third in the Benetton, is attacking Villeneuve. Villeneuve is sliding around on the circuit. After his years in IndyCar racing, he lacks wet weather experience. There's Jos Verstappen going well behind Brundle. But Damon Hill, all the time, is clearly out on his own. Barrichello is attacking Jean Alesi's third place, but Alesi manages just to hang on, and the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher's right up there too. Meanwhile, Verstappen, who's got up to the top 6, retires with engine trouble. Alesi's on the attack again, which puts Villeneuve offline and into the dirt and out of the race. Gerhard Berger retires also, with problems with his hydraulic system. He was never in the top 6 and hasn't had a happy weekend. Patrick Head looks at the weather and says, we can put Damon not on wet tyres when he comes in, but on dry. So they get the slicks ready. Jean Alesi's had an off, and that's put him behind Barrichello back into 3rd place. And now here comes Damon Hill for that pit stop. He's the first man to change onto dry tyres. He's got a big lead, and it's looking as though he's timed it precisely right. Jean Alesi and Michael Schumacher on slicks on a still wet road are battling, and Alesi gets on the wet line but still manages to overtake the world champion. Flavio Briatore is astonished. Now Rubens Barrichello is attacking Michael Schumacher, but it doesn't work, and he goes off all on his own. He's out of his home Grand Prix. And so Damon Hill runs on to an easy win, taking the checkered flag by 18 seconds from Alesi. Schumacher comes home 3rd. Brazilian football legend Pelé presents the awards, and Damon Hill now has 2 wins out of 2 and a comfortable championship lead as the circus moves on to Argentina. For the 2nd time in recent years, there's a Grand Prix at Buenos Aires, and Damon Hill has his 2nd pole position. But Ferrari are improving. Michael Schumacher's on the front row with him. It's the old rivalry between the two of them. And at the start, Damon Hill gets away well, but Jacques Villeneuve makes a terrible start and drops from 3rd on the grid all the way down to 9th. Schumacher is attacking Damon Hill, but Hill has the matter well in hand. Villeneuve is now moving up, past Barrichello for 6th, and then past David Coulthard for 5th. Alesi, having got up to 2nd, has his routine stop, and as he comes down the pit lane, Michael Schumacher is in sight. Onto the track for Alesi, but Schumacher goes round him, Villeneuve doesn't. Alesi's come out into the middle of that battle. Luca Badoa and Pedro Diniz tangle, and Badoa cartwheels off the track. He's okay, but the safety car comes out. During the safety car period, several cars have their refuelling stops. And for Pedro Diniz, it all goes terribly wrong. The fuel is leaking, the car spins to a halt, burning furiously. Miraculously, Diniz is able to get out safely, even though the marshal can't get to the car. Tasso Marquez runs over the back of Brundle. And by now, after all these incidents, there's a lot of debris on the track, and look out for a small black piece of carbon fibre attacking Michael Schumacher. He ducks, it misses him, but it tears off part of his rear wing. Jean Alesi makes his 2nd stop and stalls the car. That drops him from 2nd place down to 8th. Hill is well in command. Berger and Villeneuve are now 2nd and 3rd, but Schumacher's lost part of his rear wing and the car is not handling well. Jean Alesi finds him easy to overtake. Schumacher decides that he can't drive the car on this circuit with part of the rear wing missing, and he retires. Gerhard Berger's a spectator now. He's had suspension failure. But Dutchman Jos Verstappen passes David Coulthard's McLaren to get into the points and 6th place. So Damon Hill makes it 3 victories out of 3 starts this year. And Jacques Villeneuve has worked his way up from that bad start into a remarkable 2nd place. It's a Williams 1-2, even though Jean Alesi's Benetton is catching Villeneuve in the closing stages and finishes 3rd. But now Damon Hill has a very good lead in the World Championship. Rubens Barrichello, Eddie Irvine and Jos Verstappen get the remaining points as the circus leaves South America and makes the long trip back to Europe and to the cold and the damp of the Nürburgring. Michael Schumacher is the local hero here, of course, with the Ferrari, but he only qualifies 3rd. Jacques Villeneuve is 2nd qualifier. And once again, Damon Hill is on pole, this time by almost a second. But at the start, Hill is slow away. Both the Benettons are stuck on the grid, and Jacques Villeneuve takes the lead, but David Coulthard has made a miraculous start from 6th on the grid and is challenging Villeneuve as they go into the first corner. Ukio Katayama is pushed off the grid in his Tyrrell. And as the race settles down, it's Villeneuve, Coulthard, Barrichello 3rd, Schumacher 4th, And this is Alazi making a desperate attempt to move up. He hits Mika Salo and he is out on 3 wheels. Salo, however, is able to race on. Meanwhile, Damon Hill does get past Michael Schumacher for 4th place, but then proceeds to get badly stuck behind Rubens Barrichello in the Jordan Peugeot, which is very quick in a straight line. This is Hill trying to go round the outside of the corner onto the start-finish straight, but Barrichello is able to out-accelerate him. Eddie Jordan's enjoying it all very much. Michael Schumacher is fighting with difficult handling on his first set of tyres, and Damon Hill comes in early for his second set. There's nearly a collision in the pit lane as Johnny Herbert leaves at the same time as Martin Brundle. Now Damon Hill tries to pass Pedro Diniz. Diniz pushes him off onto the grass, and it's another delay for poor Damon Hill. They were battling for 8th place, and this has dropped Damon Hill down to 11th. Diniz just didn't seem to know he was there. Meanwhile, Mika Hakkinen has a speeding penalty. He comes in and then gets another penalty as he goes down the pit lane to rejoin the race. Now Michael Schumacher on his next set of tyres finds the Ferrari is handling very much better, and he's starting to put on a really good show for the Ferrari team and for his home crowd. He's catching Villeneuve. Niki Lauda watches. Damon Hill has carved his way up from 11th to 4th, setting fastest lap of the race as he does so. He's now on the tail of David Coulthard in the McLaren. That's Ron Dennis of McLaren. And that's the Williams team watching with Jock Clear. Michael Schumacher gets very, very close to Villeneuve now. We're on the final lap, and Villeneuve is holding Schumacher off as they go for the checkered flag. It's Villeneuve winning his first Grand Prix in only his 4th attempt. And the battle for 3rd place is led by Coulthard from Hill and a very close Barrichello over the line. Villeneuve therefore the winner, Schumacher 2nd at home, and Hill's worst performance this year, but he's still the comfortable championship leader. But a great day for Villeneuve of Canada. So to Ferrari's homeland, to Imola. And Michael Schumacher has delighted the crowd by putting the Ferrari on pole position. Perhaps a Ferrari victory isn't so far away, but Damon Hill and Jacques Villeneuve in the 2 Williamses are 2nd and 3rd on the grid. David Coulthard is 4th, and once again Coulthard makes a stunningly good start. While Hill and Schumacher concentrate on each other, David sneaks up the outside. Villeneuve and Alazi bang wheels going into that first chicane. And it's going to be a serious problem for Villeneuve soon, as Coulthard leads Damon Hill with Schumacher in 3rd place. Villeneuve's left rear tyre goes flat. He goes off the track, Alazi and the rest go by, and Villeneuve has to nurse the car back to the pits. The leading battle goes on. McLaren leads Williams, leads Ferrari. It's a great day for Coulthard, and Schumacher attacks Damon Hill and forces the Ferrari into 2nd place. Meanwhile, Villeneuve crawls back to the pits. Coulthard is having a tremendous race, despite all of Schumacher's pressure with the Ferrari. Hill is a lonely 3rd. Then it's time for the pit stops. Coulthard comes out of the lead and drops to 6th place. Schumacher comes in and hands the lead to Hill. But while the Williams leads, the Ferrari gets back into the race and will soon be up into 2nd place. Mika Salo stops with a blown engine in the Tyrrell. And Mika Hakkinen spins off, but manages to restart. He's now a lap behind, and Michael Schumacher catches him and can't get past. He's very angry. And they bring the McLaren in for a blocking penalty. They do the same to Pedro Diniz, who's been running just ahead of Hakkinen. David Coulthard's fine race in 4th place comes to an end with hydraulic failure. And Jean Alazi, who's stalled again in the pits, spins trying to pass Olivier Panis. Damon Hill made his first stop late. He was carrying a heavier fuel load at the start of the race, and his second stop is a quick splash and dash. It allows him to keep the lead, and the Williams strategy has worked to perfection. Michael Schumacher in second place laps the wayward Alesi. But Jacques Villeneuve is back in the pits. He's retiring with suspension failure. Mika Häkkinen retires as well in this race of attrition. But for Damon Hill, it's still going well. His 4th win in 5 races. Behind him, Michael Schumacher has a problem with his front right-hand wheel. It's jamming because of a broken wheel disc. But he still manages to bring the Ferrari home second, to the delight of the Ferrari-mad crowd. Gerhard Berger is a distant third for Benetton ahead of Irvine, Barrichello and Alesi. After 5 championship rounds, Hill has a 21-point lead now over his teammate Villeneuve. So to the season's most glamorous race, Monte Carlo. And here, Michael Schumacher is again on pole position. Damon Hill second, Jean Alesi and the Benetton third. But on the grid, as the lights go out, Hill's start is perfect, and he leapfrogs past Schumacher to lead into Sainte-Devote. It's slippery after earlier rain, everyone's on wet weather tyres, and going up the hill, David Coulthard is attacking Rubens Barrichello's Jordan. Past Rosie's Bar, up to the Casino Square, it's still very tight and narrow, but at the front, Damon Hill leads past the Lowe's Hotel. Michael Schumacher is second. Then Schumacher clips the curb and he skates across the road into the barrier. He is out. So is Pedro Lamy. So is Jos Verstappen. So is Fisichella and Rosset. They've all gone off on the first lap. Eddie Irvine is in 4th place and there's a big train behind him. That's Heinz-Harald Frentzen sliding behind him. Gerhard Berger, meanwhile, is out of the race with gearbox failure. The frustrated Frentzen hits Irvine, damages his front wing, which starts to rub against a front tyre, so the pits are getting ready for him. Meanwhile, Damon Hill decides it's dry enough for slicks, so he makes an early stop, off come the wet weather tyres, on go the slicks, and he's back into the race, running behind Jean Alesi. But look how quickly he's able to wind in Alesi on his slick tyres. As Flavio Briatore watches, the Williams gets closer and closer to the Benetton, out of Sainte-Devote and up the hill. Damon Hill has the lead once more. He's already made his pit stop, so he's looking comfortable, but there's a great battle going on for 3rd place. Eddie Irvine is 3rd in the Ferrari, but Olivier Panis, with the blue flag telling Irvine he's under pressure, Panis in the Ligier is right on Irvine's tail. As Jean Todt watches, Panis nudges Irvine as they go down to the Lowe's Hotel. Irvine stalls, but avoids the barrier, and he's able to continue. But then it goes wrong for Damon Hill. Into the tunnel all is well, then his engine blows, and this race that Damon Hill so wanted to win, his father won it 5 times, is not going to be his today. Patrick Head is disappointed too, but not as disappointed as Damon Hill, who simply can't believe his luck as he climbs from the stricken Williams. So now Jean Alesi leads, but not for long. With 15 laps to go, he retires with suspension failure. Now Johnny Herbert Sauber is 3rd, behind Panis and Coulthard. And Jacques Villeneuve in 4th place is taken out by Badoer's 40. Both Williamses are out. So now Mika Häkkinen and Mika Salo are battling for 4th place, and it's started to rain again. Irvine's in the barriers. Salo hits him, Häkkinen hits him. All 3 are out, and Mika Häkkinen at the back is absolutely furious. So now only 3 cars left running, and at the front of them it's Ligier, it's Olivier Panis. A great day for the French team. Their first win for 15 years. David Coulthard is 2nd, Johnny Herbert is 3rd. It's a day for the outsiders. The official results give 4th place to Frentzen, 5th to Salo and 6th to Häkkinen, even though none of them finish. And Olivier Panis enjoys the sensation of spraying the champagne. From rainy Monaco to rainy Spain. Qualifying has been dry, but now on race day it's very wet indeed. Damon Hill explains it all to King Juan Carlos. As the red lights go out, Schumacher makes a rotten start and almost stalls, but it's Jacques Villeneuve who's leading from Jean Alesi and Damon Hill. And watch for Mika Häkkinen being passed through the murk by David Coulthard, who only has 3 wheels. Through the murk, it's Villeneuve, Alesi, Hill and Berger. Michael Schumacher's down in 10th place, but by the end of this first lap, he's already gone up to 6th. Damon Hill is struggling with his wrong setup. Soon he's off on the grass, and later on he'll have the first of 2 spins. Villeneuve is doing better, he's still leading, but look at Schumacher coming through, passing Jean-Alesi with apparent ease. Now Damon Hill is in the wall, and let's see how it happened. As he came into the corner on the start-finish straight, the front got away from him, then the back, and he spun like a top on the soaking surface and thumped the wall. No championship points for Damon today. Well, as he walks home, the battle for the lead goes on because Villeneuve has now been caught by the flying Schumacher, and once more Schumacher has no difficulty at all in getting a tight line on the inside of that left-hander. Frank Williams isn't pleased, but Ferrari are, because Schumacher is now fishtailing through the murk, apparently finding grip where no one else can. That's Jos Verstappen doing a quick 360 degrees. That's Mika Häkkinen managing to pass Pedro Diniz only because Diniz is off the road. Schumacher does his 2 routine stops without losing the lead, and Damon Hill watches as the reigning world champion dominates the Spanish Grand Prix and takes the checkered flag 45 seconds ahead of everyone else. It's the first Ferrari win of the year, and Jean Todt has a smile on his face at last. And Pedro Diniz, despite that spin, scored his first ever World Championship point. But look at the delighted Schumacher. Ferrari are winners again. Now to Canada, Jacques Villeneuve's homeland. But it's still Damon Hill who's quickest qualifier. Villeneuve is alongside him on pole, and as they go out on the warm-up lap, Michael Schumacher's car is slow away. It's been delayed in the pit lane, and Schumacher has to start from the back of the grid. As the lights go out, Villeneuve makes a great start, and they're side by side into the first corner, but Damon Hill holds the inside line. Villeneuve locking a wheel there. He's second. Alesi, last year's winner, is third, and Gerhard Berger in the other Benetton is fourth. But this is Eddie Irvine. He's in trouble. Something's broken at the front, and he's out. Damon Hill is pulling comfortably away from the rest, and Ukio Katayama and Ricardo Rosset try to use the same piece of road at the last chicane. There's a Brazilian and a Japanese version of just whose fault it was. So Williams 1-2, Benetton 3-4, there's Jean-Alesi in third place and Gerhard Berger in fourth place, the 2 running very close indeed at this point. Damon Hill has 2 pit stops and loses the lead to Villeneuve after his first one. Jacques Villeneuve is running a heavier load of fuel and has decided to stop only once. Here's Gerhard Berger's stop, and now Villeneuve is in the pit lane. This is a crucial stop for him. He's got to take on a lot of fuel, but he's only going to stop once, and this could win him the race. Villeneuve rejoins. Schumacher rejoins with tremendous wheel spin, and look what happens. His half shaft breaks and flies off. He drives on with the engine driving one rear wheel, but realises that all is not well as soon as he gets to a corner. Watch it again, the bits fly off at the back, and later on, they're found in the 40 pit. So Schumacher retires, and meanwhile Gerhard Berger spins out of fourth place. He's out of the race. Now for Damon Hill's second stop. Can he get back into the race ahead of Jacques Villeneuve? There's Villeneuve going round the back section of the circuit as Hill finishes his stop and rockets back into the race, still in the lead. So it's a Williams 1-2, Jean-Alesi still third, and behind the Benetton, the McLarens of David Coulthard and Mika Häkkinen are fourth and fifth. Jacques Villeneuve sets fastest lap of the race in his pursuit of Damon Hill, but it's in vain. Damon Hill scores another victory, Villeneuve comes home second for another Williams 1-2, and if he wants to win his home race, he's going to have to wait until next year. The McLarens of Coulthard and Häkkinen fourth and fifth, Martin Brundle is in sixth place. And at the halfway point of the championship, Damon Hill has a 21-point lead over Jacques Villeneuve. In the Constructors' Championship, Williams are dominating. 5 wins for Hill, 1 for Villeneuve so far. From Canada, back to Europe and to France and the Manucourt circuit. and to Michael Schumacher's third pole position with the Ferrari of the year. But it doesn't work out right. At the start of the final warm-up lap, Schumacher's engine explodes. That's the oil flying over Alesi's car. Fury in the Ferrari pit, ignominy for Schumacher. And there's going to be quite a post-mortem about that in the Ferrari pit. And that means that Damon Hill finds himself effectively on pole position, with Jean Alesi just behind, and Hill makes a very clean start this time. Jacques Villeneuve is 6th on the grid after an accident in qualifying, but he's up to 4th already and going well. First Hill, second Alesi, Mika Häkkinen is 3rd, Villeneuve is there in 4th place, and Eddie Irvine is already in the pits. His gearbox has failed. For the second race running, both the Ferraris are out. Damon Hill goes on, comfortably in the lead already, and Jos Verstappen is out of the race with broken suspension, sending him off the track. There's a great third place battle now between Mika Häkkinen and Jacques Villeneuve. The McLaren is going really well. In the pits they're preparing for the stops, and one of the first in is Jean Alesi. This stop drops him from 2nd place to 5th. Olivier Panis is going to stop 3 times. He's battling here with Martin Brundle's Jordan. Jacques Villeneuve has got past Mika Häkkinen, and now the McLaren's mirrors are full of Gerhard Berger's Benetton. Pat Simmons watches, and into the pits now comes Damon Hill. He loses the lead to Jacques Villeneuve for about 3 laps before the Canadian comes in. Mika Häkkinen comes in and drops to 4th place. Jacques Villeneuve is now the leader. And meanwhile, Pedro Diniz walks home. He's had an engine failure after running again in the top 6. Here now is Villeneuve's stop, and Damon Hill goes back into the lead while Villeneuve gets his new tyres and fuel. Villeneuve rejoins 3rd, but is soon on Jean Alesi's tail and passes him effortlessly at the Adelaide hairpin. And Gerhard Berger passes Mika Häkkinen for 4th. Here's Jacques Villeneuve's second stop. He comes in before Hill this time. He's safely back in the race, and now it's all down to Damon Hill's final stop. Can he come in and get out again without losing the lead? It's a good stop from the Williams team, and he retains the lead. Gerhard Berger, meanwhile, is now on Jean Alesi's tail for 3rd place. It's a Williams 1-2, it's a Benetton 3-4 as Damon Hill crosses the start-finish line to acknowledge another checkered flag, another Williams 1-2, an 8-second gap between Hill and Villeneuve, with McLaren's 5th and 6th. And it's Jean Alesi's first time on the podium for his home Grand Prix. So to Silverstone, Damon Hill's home Grand Prix. He won it 2 years ago, and he's on pole position in the Williams here this year. In the Ferrari, Michael Schumacher, his old rival, is 3rd quickest qualifier, and Jacques Villeneuve splits the two of them. On the grid, as the lights go out, Damon Hill makes a disastrous start, too much wheel spin, and he's engulfed by Villeneuve, Alesi, Häkkinen and Schumacher, all going past. At the front, Jacques Villeneuve is making the break and starting to pull away. Damon Hill trying to make up for his terrible start. Alesi 2nd, Häkkinen 3rd, Schumacher 4th, and the Ferrari team are already worried about Schumacher's car. Yes, Schumacher is slowing, and as the rest of the field go away, the Ferrari team can't believe that their world champion has a problem once more. Doesn't seem to worry the Williams team. Schumacher comes into the pits and straight into the garage. Jean Todt is not a happy man. And now Irvine's engine has blown. It's another Ferrari disaster. Jean Todt strides back into the pits to contemplate a 3rd race in a row with no finishers for Ferrari. Meanwhile, Damon Hill is charging up the field. He's attacking Mika Häkkinen for 3rd place, and there's no doubt who the crowd are supporting. Jacques Villeneuve is well away, however, comfortably in the lead. There is Alesi in 2nd place. Patrick Head watches his charges as they get the tyres ready for Villeneuve's first pit stop. In goes the fuel. Alesi is now leading, Häkkinen 2nd, Damon Hill 3rd, Villeneuve back in 4th place, and Hill goes off. Across the gravel, the car spins to a harmless halt. Georgie Hill can't believe it. Damon Hill is out of the British Grand Prix, and let's look and see what happened. A wheel bearing failed just as he came into Copse Corner, and from there on, he was a passenger. For Hill, it's a big disappointment. He's still leading the championship, but he would have liked to have done a good job for his home crowd. Jean Alesi comes into the pits 4 laps later. Jacques Villeneuve is now back in the lead. There's Mika Häkkinen in 3rd place. Jean Alesi comes out of the pit lane to rejoin just behind Häkkinen. Jacques Villeneuve extends his lead, looking experienced and relaxed. It's still only his first season, remember. Gerhard Berger from 2nd place comes in now for his pit stop. And this will drop him behind his teammate Jean Alesi. Jacques Villeneuve makes his 2nd stop and is able to do so without losing the lead here at Silverstone. A lap later, Jean Alesi is out. He's furious again, and his brakes are almost on fire. So with that problem in mind, the Benetton team are now worried about Gerhard Berger, who's in 2nd place. But there are no worries for Jacques Villeneuve. He takes the checkered flag to score his 2nd Grand Prix victory, still only his 1st season. There is the McLaren of Mika Häkkinen finishing 3rd, and it's Häkkinen's 1st podium since that horrendous accident he had in Australia at the end of last season. Next stop, Germany and Hockenheim, Michael Schumacher's 2nd race of the year at home. And if the British fans love Damon Hill, the German fans adore Michael Schumacher. And he plays to the audience like the professional he is. Boris Becker is here to cheer him on as well. But Michael Schumacher's only 3rd on the starting grid. Damon Hill has the pole, Gerhard Berger's on the front row. And as the lights go off, Berger and Alesi both make tremendous starts. Schumacher almost pushes Häkkinen into the pit wall, but look at Alesi. He's already gone through into 2nd place behind Berger as Häkkinen slips back. It's Berger, Alesi, Hill, Schumacher and a charging Coulthard outbraking Villeneuve, and at the end of the 1st lap there's the Benetton 1-2, watched by Briatore and his team. Hill 3rd, Schumacher 4th, Coulthard 5th, Villeneuve 6th, Irvine 7th, Häkkinen 8th. And that's Coulthard charging once more up the inside of Barrichello. Doesn't do him any good because Barrichello holds the place. And now a pit stop for Damon Hill. He rejoins in 5th place, and this is Ukio Katayama. Just listen to what happens now. A big thump into the barrier for Katayama. He's not hurt, but his race is over. Now, Schumacher and Villeneuve in the pits at the same time. They're both on a one-stop strategy, and look what happens when they come out. They so nearly collide. The race going on in the pit lane. Schumacher is in front, but Villeneuve isn't happy, and Villeneuve is going to attack the world champion, and he does so into the chicane. Villeneuve goes ahead. What a tremendously aggressive driver this man is. Into the pits now comes Gerhard Berger, and there's Damon Hill now taking the lead. Meanwhile, Jacques Villeneuve is 5th, and the 2 Ferraris are breathing down his neck, Schumacher and Eddie Irvine. Now here's Damon Hill's crucial stop. He comes in the lead, he rockets down the pit lane, but Gerhard Berger is on the home straight, and Gerhard Berger goes into that 1st corner before Damon Hill can get out of the pit lane. Eddie Irvine's in trouble now. It's a gearbox failure, leaking oil, but now the battle for the lead is well and truly on. Hill is on Berger's tail. Coulthard and Schumacher are fighting equally closely over 5th place. Schumacher shutting the door on the Scotsman. Meanwhile, in the battle for the lead, Hill can't get past Berger, and then suddenly this happens. A huge cloud of smoke from the Renault engine in the back of the Benetton, and the Renault-powered Williams goes storming by. Gerhard Berger pulls off. Damon Hill wins the German Grand Prix, a lucky win for him this time. And with Berger retiring, Jacques Villeneuve is a quiet 3rd behind Alesi and ahead of Schumacher. In the championship, Hill has his 21-point lead back. So to Hungary, the dusty twists of the Hungaroring. And on this very tight circuit, Michael Schumacher has put the Ferrari on pole, ahead of Hill and Villeneuve. And this circuit is very tough on tyres, so 3 sets of pit stops are expected. So to the start, and as the lights go out, Schumacher makes a very good start, Hill not so good, Villeneuve passes him, Alesi does too. And down into the first corner, it's Schumacher leading from Villeneuve and Alesi. Alesi squeezing round the outside, a very brave manoeuvre, but he gets away with it. So it's Schumacher, Villeneuve, Alesi, then Damon Hill down in a frustrated fourth place. And at the second corner, Mika Salo goes straight off in the Tyrrell and Pedro Diniz spins. Schumacher and Villeneuve are pulling away now, and Jean Alesi is getting a queue developing behind him on this circuit where it's so hard to pass. But Brundle leaves the race in dramatic fashion after only 4 laps. The first pit stops, Michael Schumacher is early in and loses the lead to Villeneuve. But Villeneuve's punishing his tyres too. He comes in and loses the lead to Damon Hill. This is going to be a race where the performance of the pit crews will make a big difference to the result. Then David Coulthard's engine seizes on the straight, the rear wheels lock solid, and he spins off in front of his pit. Damon Hill stops now. Villeneuve and Schumacher both go by. Irvine's in too, but as Hill comes down the pit lane, Alesi goes through into third place, so Hill is now fourth. Villeneuve, Schumacher and Alesi the top 3. This is Rosset getting it all wrong in the footwork. Damon Hill's on Alesi's tail for third, and as they come past one of the back markers, Hill lines up for an attack just as Alesi misses the apex and goes wide. And that's Alesi's eye view, getting the opposite lock on. Michael Schumacher's in the pits now, then Jacques Villeneuve, and then Damon Hill is in as well. So is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, but with less speed, he's retiring from the race. Now the final round of stops. Villeneuve loses the lead to Hill this time, but of course Hill has another stop to come. The Williams mechanics are working it all out, and now Hill's back in again. Third stop for him. Michael Schumacher's in trouble, listen. It's a gearbox problem apparently, which has caused the engine to stall. Hill closes on Villeneuve in the end, but he can't prevent the Canadian's third Grand Prix victory. And behind the Williams 1-2, Jean Alesi inherits third place for Benetton after Schumacher's retirement. For Jacques Villeneuve, 12 Grand Prix started, 3 won. A 25% success rate for the little Canadian, who's already very much part of the Grand Prix establishment. From Hungary, the Grand Prix circus travels west to Belgium and to the magnificent road circuit of Spa. There was rain in qualifying and it was Villeneuve who got his second pole position, Damon Hill a frustrated second quickest, and Michael Schumacher is third on the grid. But come the race, once again, Hill does not make a particularly good start. He's outdragged by Schumacher as Villeneuve leads the queue into the tight La Source hairpin, where, as always, there is bumping and boring. Irvine gets touched, then both the Saubers go off. So do Panis and Barrichello. The Saubers are buried in the barrier. Up the hill, Hill is passed by Coulthard, so it's Villeneuve, Schumacher, Coulthard third, Hill fourth, and Mika Häkkinen fifth. Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Johnny Herbert walk back to the pits. And now there's been an accident. There are worried faces in the footwork pit. It seems that Jos Verstappen has gone off at Pouhon. The car's in the barriers, he is all right, but the safety car is going to come out. And that's a signal for a lot of activity in the pits. The Ferrari team are the first to move. They call in Schumacher. Damon Hill wants to come in as well. But the Williams team tell him he can't because they want to bring in Villeneuve first. So poor Damon Hill has to go back out onto the circuit, and here's Villeneuve coming in for his stop. Berger follows him. Behind the safety car, David Coulthard and Mika Häkkinen are leading the race. Michael Schumacher, after his stop, has managed to be third in the queue as Damon Hill finally comes in. Now the safety car pulls off, and Villeneuve is already attacking Alesi, going down the inside at La Source, then running wide, so that Alesi is able to get ahead again. It's Coulthard and Häkkinen first and second in the McLarens, Schumacher is third, and then Villeneuve does get that fourth place from Alesi at the top of the hill. In comes Coulthard for his stop. Hakkinen is going to follow soon. And that means that Michael Schumacher is going to get out in the lead of the race, pursued by Villeneuve. There's Schumacher's next pit stop. Villeneuve is now the leader. And Eddie Irvine is out of the race. It's another gearbox problem for Ferrari. Villeneuve stops. Schumacher is coming down the straight. Can Villeneuve get out in front of him? He thinks he can, but Schumacher is already in the La Source hairpin on the power, and as Villeneuve comes out, so Schumacher storms past him to re-establish the Ferrari at the front of the Belgian Grand Prix, and the visiting German fans love it. The checkered flag is waiting. It's going to be a Ferrari victory, Michael Schumacher's second for the prancing horse. And if that win in Spain was due mainly to Schumacher's extraordinary skill and the extraordinary weather, this has been a victory which has shown that the prancing horse is now becoming fully competitive. Jean Todt and Michael Schumacher are delighted. Damon Hill has only managed to finish fifth. Nevertheless, at Monza, Hill has a chance of clinching the world title here. On Ferrari's home ground, all eyes are on Michael Schumacher. He's third quickest. Villeneuve is second on the grid, but Damon Hill has taken another pole position. At the start, a sensational getaway by Jean Alesi from sixth place puts the Benetton up into the lead as they go into the first corner. And watch Damon Hill ruthlessly shut out Jacques Villeneuve to take second place. Villeneuve off on the curbs. Hill now determinedly setting about taking that lead from Jean Alesi. They go into the Curva Grande and up to Lesmo, and Damon Hill is there alongside Alesi and forces the Williams into the lead. This is a very determined Damon Hill. A determined Alesi fights back, but Hill will have none of it. Shuts him out at Ascari. Meanwhile, Hakkinen is steaming past Villeneuve on the back straight. It's Hill, Alesi, Hakkinen third. Villeneuve looking at the inside, but shut out by Hakkinen. And Coulthard hits the tyre barriers at the chicane, goes off on the right. Coulthard is out of the race. And now Alesi has hit the tyre barriers too. There are tyres rolling about in the road. A couple of cars have hit them. Hakkinen has suffered. Everybody else seems to have avoided them. But these tyre barriers at the chicane are very dangerous indeed. Now, there's Hakkinen's car in the pits. It needs a new nose section. And now Damon Hill has hit the barriers. Damon Hill hits the tyre barriers. In the lead, he spins to a halt. The rest of the field go by. We see it again. He clipped the barriers. The car spun through 360 degrees. And Damon Hill can't believe it. He was leading the Italian Grand Prix. Now he's out. Villeneuve has hit the tyre barriers and has bent his suspension. The front tyre is wearing badly. He comes in for fresh rubber and rejoins. And now Michael Schumacher is attacking Jean Alesi. Schumacher cheered on by the Ferrari fans as Alesi comes into the pits. So Michael Schumacher has taken the lead. A Ferrari is leading the Italian Grand Prix. Here is Schumacher's pit stop. Jean Todt is serious-faced, but the pit stop goes well. Schumacher rejoins ahead of Jean Alesi and continues to lead the Italian Grand Prix. It was a wonderful pit stop. That's Giorgio Ascanelli congratulating the mechanics who are praying that everything goes right, praying that the Ferrari holds together. It does. Michael Schumacher wins the Italian Grand Prix. Alesi is second, and a great drive by Mika Hakkinen, who climbs back up to third place. But the cheers of the crowd are all for Ferrari, for the prancing horse, and for Michael Schumacher, the third Ferrari win of 1996. And look at the crowd around the winner's rostrum as Schumacher gets the spoils of victory here in Monza. So to Portugal, the final European round, the penultimate race of the year. There's George Harrison, the Beetle, talking to Jacques Lafitte. And there is Michael Schumacher, who is only fourth quickest here. Villeneuve is second, Alesi third, and Damon Hill once more is on pole position. And this time Damon Hill does make a good start. This race could be crucial for the World Championship for him. Jean Alesi up to second, Jacques Villeneuve is third, and Gerhard Berger is moving up well. Mika Hakkinen is squeezed out by teammate Coulthard, and the Portuguese Grand Prix driver, the local hero Pedro Lamy, has stalled in the pits. Jacques Villeneuve is trying for third place behind Michael Schumacher. Now comes one of the overtaking manoeuvres of the year as Villeneuve goes round the outside of Schumacher as they approach Lavaggi's Minardi to lap it. There is Schumacher's eye view, and Villeneuve almost off the road on the outside, but he stays there and he's got the place, and they chop past Lavaggi. A wonderful attack by Villeneuve, and now leader Damon Hill is coming into the pits. That's going to hand the lead to Jean Alesi. There's Alesi, and Villeneuve in now, stopping a lap later on the same lap as Michael Schumacher, who's in the pits at the same time. Who's going to get out first? Villeneuve is underway, a good stop from the Williams mechanics. Villeneuve goes, Schumacher goes, and their battle carries on out on the circuit. Now Schumacher is on the tail of Jean Alesi. Ahead of them is Villeneuve, and a little nudge for Alesi from an impatient Schumacher. Schumacher in the pits now. He's on a three-stop strategy like most of the front runners here at Estoril. A lot of oil on the front of that car from all the battles on the track. And as he rejoins, there is Jean Alesi coming down the pit lane. There's Georgie, hoping against hope that all will go well for Damon, but Villeneuve out of the pits now, and as Villeneuve comes out of the pits, there is Damon Hill. Villeneuve has come out ahead of Hill, and there doesn't seem to be anything that Hill can do about it. Villeneuve has come up to lead the race. Villeneuve wins in Portugal, keeps the World Championship fight open. Damon Hill comes home a distant second, and the championship battle is going to go all the way to the final round in Suzuka, the Japanese Grand Prix still to come. Schumacher is a splendid third for Ferrari, ahead of Alesi and Irvine and Berger. But look at the championship points. Villeneuve is 9 points behind Hill. If he scores 10 here in Suzuka in the final round, then Villeneuve could snatch the championship from Damon Hill. And Hill doesn't get pole position. He's on the outside of the front row here in Japan. Jacques Villeneuve starts from pole, but when the lights go off, it's Damon Hill who makes the best start. Villeneuve is slow away. Häkkinen and Irvine storm past him, and it's Berger who slots into second place behind Damon Hill. Damon Hill leading on this first lap. Berger is in second place, and as the rest of the field stream round with Häkkinen and Irvine following, Jean Alesi has gone off. Alesi has hit the bank very hard indeed. We see it again, the car absolutely disintegrating as Alesi tried to go round the outside from his lowly grid position, and that's Alesi out. Now this is Berger attacking Hill for the lead at the chicane, and I don't think they touched. In fact, what happened was that Berger clouted the curb and has damaged his front wing. There's Alesi talking to Briatore back in the pits, but Berger's going to have to come in for a new nose section, and I'm awfully glad that he hit the curb and he didn't hit Damon Hill. Now this is Villeneuve. Villeneuve goes through on the inside of Eddie Irvine's Ferrari to put his Williams in fourth place as Damon Hill starts the sequence of pit stops. Hill doesn't lose the lead in that first stop, coming out ahead of Michael Schumacher, but Häkkinen moves down to third place and Villeneuve is fourth. And then Hill makes his second pit stop, and once again he doesn't lose the lead. It's all running according to the script for Damon Hill, but Jacques Villeneuve hasn't given up yet. Villeneuve is setting the fastest lap of the race in his efforts to close up on Damon Hill, but then it all goes wrong as Jacques Villeneuve's right-hand rear wheel overtakes him, goes bounding ahead, is stopped happily by the second row of safety fences, but out goes Jacques Villeneuve. Frank Williams shakes his head in despair. Jacques Villeneuve is out of the race, but that means that Damon Hill is already 1996 champion of the world. Gerhard Berger tries to pass Eddie Irvine for fourth place at the chicane. Both cars tangle and go off. The Ferrari's race is run, but Gerhard Berger nonchalantly carries on. And looking at the replay, I wonder whose fault it really was. Meanwhile, as Jean Todt watches the remainder of the race, Michael Schumacher is coming under strong pressure from the very determined Mika Häkkinen. And look how close Häkkinen gets, one side, then the other, locking up a wheel as he tries to slot inside the Ferrari before the chicane. The other McLaren of David Coulthard is pushing hard too, passing Johnny Herbert for 8th place. but Damon Hill is world champion. Georgie, his wife, greets him as he crosses the line. This is the summit of all of Damon Hill's ambitions, and finally, after the disappointments of the last couple of years, Damon Hill has clinched the 1996 Formula One World Championship, and 3.2 seconds cover the first 3 cars home as Damon Hill brings his car to a halt. Mika Häkkinen getting out, Michael Schumacher getting out, but Damon is still in the cockpit, still savouring the moment. Now on the rostrum, on the left of Damon, Adrian Newey, the Williams designer, his friend, who has worked so hard with Hill to make this Hill's championship year. 8 wins out of the 16 races for Hill this year, and 28 years after his father Graham last won the World Championship, Damon Hill has become the first ever son of a world champion to be himself the world champion. Ironic that he has already been fired by Williams and knows that he will be driving for the Arrows team next year. Now the teams face a winter of hard work away from the public eye, designing and testing before it all starts again in Melbourne in March.